Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Sister Sister, a podcast for spiritual baddies. We are your hosts, Elle and Amaya, and for episode 2, we're going to go into the basics of tarot.
Hi guys, I'm very excited for this one. I love tarot, as you may know from our segment Tarot Time.
Yes, so as you might know, Elle is a tarot reader, and if you didn't know, now you know. Elle is a tarot reader who was self-taught in the beginning and has since taken a few workshop classes to further her knowledge. She's been reading for 5 years and has taught both in-person and virtual classes on tarot reading. Everything from the very basics of never having picked up a deck before to in-depth, intensive workshops that teach you about spreads, purposes of a card in said spread, numerology,
Neurology. It should be neurology.
numerology, astrology related to the cards, and the history of tarot reading, including shuffling, choosing a deck, and so much more. So, if you ever need a tarot deck, or if you need a tarot reading, or you just want to learn what the major and minor arcana means, which we're going to be talking about in very, very few minutes, she's your gal.
Yeah, I have kind of taken learning tarot on as like my personal mission. Fun fact, Amaya bought me my first deck. um, which I still have. I still do use it specifically for certain things in my practice. But I've been going at it for a while now. I'm actually coming up on almost six December will be 6 years of me having been reading tarot, which is absolutely crazy.
That is crazy. It's so
Yeah.
funny because we started learning tarot at around the same time, but I didn't get into it as in depth as Elle. Is not I can't even English. Gosh. Long story short, Elle is more knowledgeable than me because she did obviously practice and learn it. I know like certain things, but like if you ask me to put a spread together, chances are I'm not gonna know all of it. Like I can pick up on things, but like I'm not as good as Elle. I feel like that's something like you're born with too. Like it's a natural talent. So, but
Yeah, there is a big like intuitive part in tarot reading, which we are going to talk about. Kind of the like what you need to know versus like how much your intuition can guide you. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves. Let's just talk about what tarot is at its very core, what it is, and just understanding the most basic. So, tarot is a 78 card deck used for the purpose of divination, which is the practice of asking questions and receiving answers from a deity, a guide, or spirit, as you may hear many different people say. We ask spirit during tarot time during the podcast. Tarot is not a closed practice, although some specific methods of reading may be a part of certain practices or certain cultural traditions. However, those types of reading aren't going to have knowledge to the general public. So if a type of reading happens that's closed, you're not going to know about it. Pretty much anything that's readily available for you is going to be based on just general tarot reading knowledge. We will then move into the major arcana and the minor arcana little blurb just to kind of tell you about them.
so the major arcana follows the Fool's journey. You start with the card number 0, which is the Fool, and follow the journey to card 21, which is known as the World. In total, you have 22 cards that represent the journey of the Fool, which is often seen as the journey of the spiritual path. In the minor arcana, those are your suit cards. So, like a playing deck of cards, there's 4 common suits, which are the wands, swords, cups, and pentacles. Each suit has 1 to 10 numbered cards, as well as court cards that consist of the page, the knight, the queen, and the king, making each suit have a total of 14 cards. Depending on the deck, you may see the common suits named as other things. Pentacles are often referred to as discs, and wands are often referred to as rods. You may also see the court cards of the knight and the page being called the prince and the princess. It really all depends on the creator of the deck.
Yeah, so while tarot is a very standard 78 card deck, you're going to have the same cards in all of it. The names of the cards may differ just based off of the deck, so every deck should come with a guidebook if it's not a bootleg version. at least, some artists that don't use a guidebook, like a physical one, have a little insert where you can go to their guidebook, but every single deck that you get should have some form of guidebook to kind of let you know. Since we love astrology, we're going to start with some astrological associations with tarot, and then we'll kind of move into like numerology and things like that. So, for tarot, there are each of the suits are associated with a different element, which is a grouping of signs, and then there are major arcana cards that are associated with each of the zodiac signs. Obviously, there's more major arcana cards than there are zodiac signs, so not every single one is paired up. And Leo gets two because it's Leo. Um, So, wands are going to be associated with fire, which is Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Cups are going to be associated with water, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Swords are associated with air, which is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And pentacles are associated with earth, so Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Then the court cards themselves also have different elemental relationships. So pages are going to be earth energy, knights are going to be air energy, queens are going to be water energy, and kings are going to be fire energy. If you want to go way more in depth with this, there are several charts online that we're going to have a ton of tarot resources linked and also talked about at the end of this video that will go through and tell you the astrological association of every card of the 78 cards in the deck, like specific sign, if it's your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, etc. And then for the major arcana zodiac associations, Aries is the Emperor, Taurus is the Hierophant, Gemini is the Lovers, Cancer is the Chariot, Leo being extra as Leo is Strength, but also the Sun. So Strength is like the original association. However, Leo is quite literally the fire sign that represents the sun. So the sun. Virgo is the hermit, Libra is justice, no surprise there, often represented with scales on the card. Scorpio is the death card, Sagittarius is temperance, Capricorn is the devil, Aquarius is the star, and Pisces is the moon.
So numerology and tarot, so like we said before, the numbers go from 1 to 10. So number 1 represents new or new potential. 2 means merging duality, choices or opposing forces that are coming together. Number 3 represents groups coming together and their dynamic or the creation or process for something. Number 4 means laying the foundation needed for a certain type of growth. 5 reflects change, fluctuations, and conflict. 6 represents solutions or moving in a new direction. 7 represents introspection, opportunity to reevaluate a path you're on, or taking time to reassess a situation. 8 represents new growth, expanding forward, or fighting your battle face first. 9 means a cycle is nearing completion or there's almost to complete fulfillment. And 10 represents a cycle finishing or completion. And then the timing is associated with the seasons. So wands represents days or springs or spring. Swords represent weeks or autumn. Cups represent months or summer. And pentacles refer to years or winter.
So now we're going to talk about some of the most common symbolism that you're going to see in traditional tarot decks, and these descriptions did come from teachmetarot.com. If you follow the traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck, you're going to see this symbolism a lot. Most more modern tarot decks have very simple symbolism across their cards, unless it's like a completely like abstracted concept deck or like a pop culture deck. But we'll be talking more about like which decks are best for beginners as well. So these are kind of like the things that you can look for that are going to kind of give you an idea. So if you see walls on the card, it's going to be security and safety, protection, possibly obstacles. Maybe there's restrictions or you need to cut off some sort of outside influence. Churches are going to represent spirituality, spiritual growth, or renewal, as well as repression, looking at your morals or, things like, are you dedicated to a deity? Do you need to be giving more? Things like that, as well as charity. Towns and villages are going to represent things like trade, commerce, socializing, community, home and property, putting a focus on your social life. Castles are going to be security, protection, stability, kind of like strongholds, things like material wealth and possessions. Bridges are a means of moving forward and leaving the past behind, kind of a transition period, and like you're moving out of an old situation. Then towers are like one of the bit more in depth. So if it has a tower with a path running between it, this is a gateway to a new life or stage of life. It can be a daunting process to get through the gateway. However, you kind of have to leave behind old things to pass through and kind of have transformation. This is very much so specifically relating to the major arcana card, the Tower, but it kind of comes back up the symbolism of that card in the minor arcana. Pillars are going to be kind of balanced between masculine and feminine, conscious and subconscious, will and emotions, and also creating strong foundations. Gateways and arches are going to be about openings, opportunities, letting people in, transitions and initiations. And then hills are going to represent minor obstacles or challenges.
So, mountains are going to be obstacles or challenges that you're facing ahead or will overcome. Steep mountains indicate more serious obstacles or challenges. Pathways between mountains, cliffs, or towers represent gateways to advancement or to your goal. Depending on how distant and straight the pathway is, will indicate how long and hard a road you must tread in order to realize your goal. Cliffs represent danger or challenges ahead or to overcome. Water, rivers, streams, and oceans represent the water element, subconscious emotions. Note if the water is calm, choppy, or turbulent, fast flowing, or trickling. This will give an insight into the state of emotion surrounding the issue. Flowing water is often linked to memory, past, present, and future. Waterfall Waterfalls represent powerful force or emotions, maybe out of control or overwhelming, or a sense of speed and urgency. Ships and boats represent trade, commerce, travel over water. The condition of the water they sail on is a clue as to their meaning. Your ship is coming in, your ship has sailed, or emotional baggage. Crypts, tombs, and coffins represent peace, rest, illness, renewal, rebirth, death, or feeling dead. Thrones represent royalty, leadership, power, maturity, and authority.
So we threw a lot of information at y'all. We will have links that go to all of the symbolism and meanings that you can use to learn more. But now we're going to get into like, how do you actually read tarot? How do you pick a deck? How do you choose your first spreads? How do you shuffle? The very basic of the basics that I feel like are glanced over a lot for beginners. And the first thing that I want to talk about is intuitive reading, because this is something that if you are chronically online, like many of us are, and doom scroll, you're gonna see people saying, like on your TikTok For You page, I'm an intuitive tarot reader. I'm an intuitive tarot reader. I'm an intuitive like it's just constant. So the whole like thing with that is it can kind of misconstrue what many beginners will think tarot reading is supposed to look like. You can't just pick up a tarot deck with no prior knowledge and say, I'm an intuitive tarot reader, so here's what these cards say. Even intuitive reading requires knowledge with a basis on what the cards actually mean. So the easiest way to do that is by learning the symbolism, because you're never going to memorize the entire 78 card deck. The intuitive part of tarot reading is when you pick up a message from spirit to make things more cohesive as the cards are placed next to each other. So I'm just going to give like an example for this. And we do have some examples through different parts of us talking about these things just to give you guys a better idea. So if the Ace of Pentacles is comes out, it's going to represent a new material opportunity or money opportunity. And if the tower comes out, it represents the fall of greatness, much like the Tower of Babylon. That's what it's inspired from. However, if you have the tower come out, then followed by the Ace of Pentacles, an intuitive reader may ask the client if they have been struggling financially, and then explain that the tower represents a fall from greatness. And with the Ace of Pentacles coming directly after it and it's next to it, this likely has to do with money. But the ace is being after the tower is a positive sign because it's going to show us that a new material opportunity is coming in, but only if this fall from greatness can be moved away from. So that's the difference between just stating, oh, well, you're going to have a fall from greatness and then you're going to have a new financial opportunity. It's not necessarily that easy of a thing. You kind of have to try and figure out how to connect it intuitively to your client's life and how it's going to connect with them. So connecting the cards as they come out is one way to intuitively then connect it back to your client and ask them questions like, say, is this going on? That way you can get a better idea of which cards are meant to be together. Then we'll go on to deck cleansing.
Yes, so you may also hear that you have to knock on your deck 3 times before pulling cards to cleanse it. And while this is a common practice, it isn't the only way to cleanse a deck. You can do so with smoke cleansing, leaving your deck with a selenite stick on top of it, or sound cleansing. Or if there's another method, and obviously there's some closed practices, which we've already discussed in previous episodes, so don't use those tools if you know they're a part of a closed practice. But you can clean it in other ways. You can use an incense stick, for example.
Yeah, so smoke cleansing can be done in a variety of ways. You can do sound cleansing with a bell or just by playing like certain frequencies. You also can cleanse your deck by like if you want to charge it under the moon, that's an option, or cleanse it under a new moon to give it new energy, that's an option. Like there's no right or wrong way to cleanse a deck as long as you're being respectful to close practices.
Yeah. So
So,
no Palo Santo or no sage. So
no white sage.
no white sage.
Yeah, blue
All
sage is
right.
fine. Do what you want. Yes or no readings is a hill I will die on.
So yes or no readings in tarot, and this is something you may see with many people while scrolling through social media doing said readings. While yes or no readings can be done with tarot, it isn't the way most of these people are doing it, and most experienced readers will tell you that tarot isn't really the type of divination meant for yes or no readings. You can get a much clearer answer by using a pendulum or a yes or no answer coin. Tarot is a complex system with each card having very in depth meanings, so to boil it down to a simple yes or no really doesn't give tarot reading the justice it deserves for being a complex form of divination and a practice that needs to be studied.
So I will go on my little tangent now about yes or no readings. So the reason that I have a problem with yes or no readings, and it is very much so why a lot of experienced readers have a problem with them, is because tarot is not something you pick up overnight. And a lot of these people that you see on your For You page that are like, send me this gift and I will do a yes or no reading for you. And then they pull a card. Chances are they have Google up on their side with just a thing that says yes or no next to every single card that was like generated by some random person that they don't even know if they have a tarot reading background or not. And they're saying, you ask the question, is my boyfriend cheating on me? And they go, oh, this card, that's a yes. Go break up with him. Thank you so much. Move on to the next person. Like, this is the kind of tarot reading that is a scam. Like, I will straightforward say it. Anyone who is doing yes or no readings is most likely a person who is scamming you. Because there are so many other ways to answer yes or no questions, and tarot cards, every single card has such an in-depth meaning and in-depth symbolism and in-depth numerology associations and astrology associations that it's like You can't boil it down to that simply. Now, if you're trying to do a yes or no reading with tarot, you should find in your deck the card that is connected to and represents you, and then go into your deck after shuffling it and see which card is on either side of it. Those cards and their overall energy, whether they're positive or negative, is going to give you your yes or no answer, which is a much more intuitive, you have to understand what all of the cards mean kind of thing, and whether they are cards that mean good things for you personally or don't mean good things for you personally. Because while there are no bad cards in tarot, you may get called out for your stupid ideas and stupid things you do by your deck, and you know which cards your deck uses to do that after a while.
She spoke no lies.
Yes. Okay. So we will move on from that tangent, and I will talk about the idea of you have to memorize every card's exact meaning. That could not be further from the truth. And people who tell you that quite literally probably don't read tarot if we're being very frank. While you should have a basic grasp of what the cards are going to mean, you don't have to memorize every single card's exact meaning to be able to read tarot. It is actually more helpful for most readers to not focus on the exact meaning as written and rather grasp the ideas related to symbolism and numerology and astrology when it comes to the cards. Some decks lend themselves better to learning the symbolism, which we'll discuss choosing your deck in a slightly further down portion, but you don't have to memorize it. And there is no shame in going back to your guidebook if you get a little confused in the beginning. There is no shame in that.
Yeah, and something I would like to point out that older tarot decks do not have, like the Rider Waite, I think I said that deck right. But the original tarot deck, the pictures aren't as descriptive as more modern ones, and obviously the creators who make the decks obviously have their own interpretations as to what some specific cards mean, like in the major arcana. But I feel like more modern decks, like the one of the ones I have is like, I forget what it's called, but the pictures are much more clearer. Also, it is a bigger deck, so the cards are way bigger, but the pictures have a really great symbolism to help you figure out, like, oh, this is about this, that's about that. So I feel like studying the symbolism, like Elle said, is a really great point when it comes to learning tarot.
Yeah, and also every deck comes with its own guidebook that usually is created by the person who created the deck, and it's going to be influenced by their personal experience with reading tarot. So you're never going to get two guidebooks that tell you the exact same thing for every card. You'll drive yourself nuts.
Whether or not you choose to read cards in reverse is up to you individually as a reader. Reversals simply mean that the card came out upside down, and the general rule of thumb for reversals is that the meaning of the card is the opposite of the normal meaning. So there are some cards that are the exception to that rule. For example, the Tower. Upright, the tower is a fall from greatness and needs to fall to rebuild. In the reverse position, it serves more as a warning that you are resisting this fall from grace, but it's necessary to move forward. So some readers they do read reversals, and while others don't, but it truly depends on what you feel is right.
Yeah, I personally do read reversals. It's really up to the reader. It's just more things that you have to learn. So maybe in the beginning, don't read reversals. Start with just reading upright cards, and then as you get more into it, then do so.
I
So we
will
didn't. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing that I will mention when it comes to reading reversals is like and this is something I do, I just let the cards fall as they're supposed to. So whether you do or don't is fine, but I personally, and this is just my opinion, I think that as the cards fall, you just have to how they fall, when they fall, unless spirit decides to just give you half deck and you're like, okay, wait, like this is a bit too much, which spirit does to us sometimes, but it's really all up to interpretation. So, anyway.
Yeah, it's really, when you're learning, there isn't a whole lot. Like, you don't have to do reversals if you're not comfortable with that. Just start doing practice readings with only upright cards. And then as you kind of understand the symbolism, then maybe move into reversals if you think it's going to be too much information for you to grasp in the beginning. So, we didn't preface this episode with a disclaimer because we do have this portion talking about tarot reading versus fortune telling. So, as you guys know, in our episode about weird tarot and fortune telling laws that still exist, like in the state of Pennsylvania, tarot reading is banned under the guise of it being fortune telling and the claim that fortune telling is a scam. However, any knowledgeable tarot reader is going to tell you at the beginning of any reading that the cards are meant to cause you reflection and introspection rather than tell you exactly what will happen. We are not fortune tellers. We are people who are giving you a message to give you guidance on your current path. We're humans, we have free will. So if you don't like the reading, then you should self reflect to get out of your current state of being and move into a higher or better state of being. That's our little preface on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the little tidbit on keeping a tarot journal, and then I'll let you go into choosing your deck, Amaya. So, something that I think every reader should do, and any reader I've talked to does this, we have tarot journals. So, whether it's to do readings for yourself or for clients, it kind of helps us to keep record of what was in the reading, to be able to refer back to it. When you are just learning tarot, it's really a good way to learn card meanings more easily because if you're actively writing everything down, it's going to kind of help you remember, like, "Oh, I pulled this card 3 days ago and it meant this." Like, it's the repetition. The repetition is one of the easiest ways as well to learn tarot. If you see something enough times, you're eventually going to remember what it means. That's why a lot of teachers say things 3 times, because you're more likely to remember it if it's been said 3 times. I say that it's honestly really great to just keep a journal. You don't have to buy a fancy journal. I sell a tarot journal that's for beginners. It's on Amazon. I will have physical copies soon. I just was waiting for the proofs to come back correct. The ebook is on Amazon right now, though it's linked in the Chaotic Crystal Chick. But yeah, keeping a journal is a really great way to learn in the beginning. And also, if you are a more experienced reader and you're wanting to go back, like maybe you do your year at a glance reading at the beginning of the year, it's a good way to go back and be like, oh, this is the card that I pulled for August, and this is what I'm going through right now, kind of thing.
All righty. So, choosing your first deck. Many people believe your first deck must be gifted to you, but there's really not much of a reason for this, and it isn't an option for a lot of people if they're still in the broom closet. Wink, wink. The important thing is that you get a deck that you feel connected to. Below and in our description box on YouTube, we will give some recommendations on what decks are easiest for beginners to work with. However, this doesn't mean that you have to purchase decks that don't feel right to you. Let your intuition guide you when it really comes to choosing a deck. Deck recommendations. So I can do like the first one, which is the traditional Rider Waite one, which is the original OG, I believe, right? That's the OG one. So this one is if you're mainly a visual learner through symbols, then this deck will probably be the one for you. And it's commonly known and used for anyone who reads tarot, not just beginners. And this is also the deck that pretty much any modern deck and its interpretations come from. The symbolism is the most clear on these decks, making it great for visual learners.
Yeah, so any deck that is kind of based off of the traditional Rider Waite that isn't like more of an abstract deck is going to be good as far as symbolism goes. The Luna Soul Tarot deck, while it is an 80 card deck because the creators added 2 extra, which this is the deck that I use the most frequently, Um, it has a lot of really great symbolism, and it's very much so based off of a traditional Rider-Waite deck. It's just a little bit more inclusive with having people of color and different traditions throughout the deck. So that's personally why I like it. I also just feel connected to it. However, if you are a person who learns more through like reading and repetition, there is a deck called the Territorial deck. I don't know if they currently have it in stock. However, it's probably not going to matter because this episode's going to come out couple weeks after recording this. But this deck was created by a practicing tarot reader who was recovering from a stroke and needed a way to relearn tarot. It also has an expanded version of it, which both offer a lot of information directly on the card. So there's like a picture on it of like a small Rider Waite card, and then all of the information of what the card means written around it. And now one of my favorite ones that I recommend to people that I carry in the shop for beginners is the Field Tarot. And that's because this deck is really great for people who learn from like a single keyword that like can help them expand on an idea. So each card has a keyword at the bottom of it that's going to encapsulate the overall energy. And it's also included in the guidebook that can help you, better understand. So it'll have like the word and then it'll give you the full meaning of it. So it kind of serves as like a quick reminder while you're pulling cards of like, oh, that's associated with this. It kind of, helps with the whole like pattern recognition thing in your brain if that's a way that you learn.
All right, connecting to your deck and interviewing your deck. There's a number of ways to connect to a deck, including basic shuffling, meditating while holding the deck, charging the deck with a personal item such as jewelry you wear on a daily basis, and so on. When you do get a new deck, though, we always suggest interviewing the deck, which will help you better understand the deck's personality and its intended use.
I know you're probably like, how do I interview cards? If you've never picked up a tarot deck in your life, you're probably like, what do you mean interview a deck? You're a crazy person. I'm going to tell you how to do it, and I promise you it is helpful because some decks are sassier than others, and you need to be aware of that. So, you want to start by shuffling your cards and pulling 1 to 2 cards for each question that you ask. And we're just going to go through some questions that you can ask whenever you're interviewing a deck, and we'll talk about shuffling methods in depth in a moment. So, some good questions to start with is what is the energy or intention of this deck? What can this deck show me or teach me about myself? How might my life change after working with this deck? What will my relationship be with you, meaning the deck? What do I need to know about working with the deck? What is your personality? What is your most important characteristic? What is the deck strength? What is its weakness? How will you help me grow? When should I call on you for guidance? What is the best way to work with you? And one of my favorites is how does this deck view me? How do you view me? Because if this deck, you ask how it views you, and this deck throws out a card that is like the Five of Swords, it thinks you're messy. Keep that in mind. That deck's gonna sass you.
Oh, gonna clock your. Anyway, going on to choosing spreads. When you first start learning tarot, the easiest spreads will be a 1 card or 3 card spread to get you used to pulling cards and not having to process too much information. Single card spreads are for a general message about a topic. You pull 1 card and then use the meaning of that card for the reading. Some common questions for a single card readings can be: what do I need to know today? What is the energy for today? What fears are holding me back? What lesson am I learning right now? What is the best use of my energy daily? 3 card spreads, on the other hand, can get a little more complex. Each card will have a specific meaning depending on the order in which you pull them. They will be pulled in the order of the type of reading. So, for example, if you're doing a past, present, future reading, then you would pull the past card first, the present card second, and the future card third. Some common 3 card spreads include past, present, future, situation, action, outcome, the nature, the cause, the outcome, current situation, obstacle, advice, where I stand now, where I aspire to be, how do I get there? What will help you, what will hinder you, and what is your unrealized potential? Or for specific relationships, you, the other person, the relationship. And don't start using that for relationship like love and okay?
No, that's more
Just
so
saying.
meant to be like information so that like if you have a friend and you're wanting to know like what is our dynamic like? I mean, you can use it for like a romantic partner if you're going through a rocky patch, but that should not be the first reading you attempt to do. Um, yeah.
I have feelings about romantic readings, as does Elle, but that's
Yeah.
a comment for another day.
Okay. But yeah, those are just some examples for you to try out with 1 or 3 cards, and then as you get into more complex pulls, you can do 5 or 10 card pulls. That's really up to you. Now let's talk shuffling. So how do you shuffle tarot cards, and what is the correct way to do so? Well, got news for you. As with everything in tarot, there's not really a correct way to shuffle a tarot deck. It's all about what feels right for you and how you can best handle the cards. Um, Tarot cards tend to be larger than regular playing deck cards. Keep that in mind when you get a deck if you have small hands. So you can standard shuffle, which is how most people do so with playing cards. That's very similar to how I do it. So rifle shuffling is your overhand where you combine them by the cards going together, sandwiching and then pushing them together. Then also overhand shuffling. And people who overhand shuffle usually let the cards fly out, and the order they fly out in is for your spread. Then there's a couple different ways that you can do shuffling by cutting the deck. You also can do the 78 card pickup method where you just throw them all out and, shuffle them back in together. I don't suggest that. Why would you do that to yourself? So, cutting the deck, many people who do have smaller hands tend to do this, especially because tarot cards tend to be on the larger side. So, the first way is splitting the deck into threes. Some people will split the deck into 3 piles and then pull cards off the top of the pile they feel drawn to. They may also split the deck into 3 piles and then slowly place parts of each pile back into a single pile and repeat that process a few times and then pull from the top of the stack or create 3 stacks and pull from the one that they feel called to. Another way with splitting the deck is to split it into 2 piles and then do the same thing above with like feeling the one you're called to or putting them slowly back together, that kind of thing. And then a third way to split the deck is to close your eyes and focus on where you should stop when you run your fingers over the cards, and then split it there and start pulling from the split portion of the deck. That's really all up to you, what you feel it works for you. I personally am a little bit of a chaos entity, so I like the cards to fly out and they usually go on the floor, but it's fine. Then the last one is fanning out the cards. So another common way to choose cards or shuffle cards is to take them and fan them out into a circle, let your hand, or they could be fanned out into like a half circle. Let your hand go over them and choose the cards that you feel called to as your hand's going over them. Um, just make sure that when you're shuffling, you are repeating the question or making sure your intent is known for what you're asking from spirit. I will say if you are a tarot reader that is doing readings for clients, a lot of people will do the fanning out method or the splitting the deck and let people choose from it just to kind of get the person's energy into it, or they'll allow their clients to shuffle the deck a little bit to put their energy into it. It's really up to you. There is no right or wrong way to do that. That's up to you. Whatever works, whatever works. So now I got some resources.
Yes. So we have some books here, and I'm sure Elle read all of them, if not most of them. So the
I've
first one,
read all of them.
yeah, I figured. The Big Book of Tarot, How to Interpret the Cards and Work with Tarot Spreads for Personal Growth by Joan Bunning. Then there's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, A Book of Tarot by Rachel Pollack. Learning the Tarot by Joan Bunning. The Easiest Way to Learn Tarot by Dusty White. The Complete Book of Tarot Reversals by Mary K. Greer. What the is Tarot by Pakara Wintner?
Winner, yeah.
Okay. And Queering the Tarot by Cassandra Snow.
So depending on like what you're looking for, obviously each of these books is going to offer different things. I personally will say the Big Book of Tarot, the first one that we mentioned, I actually carry in the shop and I recommend it to anyone who is starting to learn. Queering the tarot is really great if you are someone who does not conform to a gender binary idea and you are trying to find ways that both your sexuality and gender can be represented in tarot when a lot of the conversation in tarot is about the divine masculine, feminine, and maybe you don't identify with those ideals. Um, that's just kind of my little 2 cents on the books. We also have workbooks and guided journals. As I mentioned, I have one. Go buy it. Self promo there. But there are some other ones that are really great. Around the Tarot in 78 Days, A Personal Journey Through Cards by Marcus Katz and Tally Goodwin. Tarot for Yourself, a workbook for the inward journey by Mary K. Greer. She does a lot of tarot books, and most of them are pretty good, so definitely check her out. One Card a Day Tarot Journal, 365 Daily One Card Readings for a Year of Intuitive Reflection by Melanie Baker. This is more so if you're really just trying to get like a very beginning grasp and want to start giving yourself a daily card reading. It's great. So I'm just going to go through the online resources because we only have a couple of them real quick. My personal favorite is thetarotguide.com. You can literally click on any card, whether it's major arcana or minor arcana. Everything is organized so easily to find on there, so easily. But not only does it give you the general meaning, it also gives you meanings for love readings, career meaning readings, finance readings, health readings, as well as all of those things in the reversed position. It is a great tool. It is a great resource. I truly love it. Biddytarot.com, also a really great resource. And um, Labyrinthos is also a really great resource. Both of those have like spread ideas and things like that, whereas the tarot guide is more so just the meanings of the cards. So if you're looking to, oh, and teachmetarot.com, I mentioned that one earlier. I skipped over it here, but that one is also a really great one. So if you don't know how to read tarot after this, go check out the resources and let us know if you are now reading tarot.
That was a lot of information we just brain dumped on you, but we will hyperlink these sections if you want to go back to them because this probably will be a very long episode. And, if you need time to like really think about everything we learned, you can just reference the book. Obviously, the links will be in the description for the books, the online resources, and the other tarot cards and whatnot. So let's get right into the fun part of the evening, tarot time.
What does the collective need to hear today, Spirit? Okay, how many cards did you give me? No, I'm not taking four. Spirit, we want one card. Okay, thank you. Oh, the Fool. Hello there, the Fool. You're embarking on a new journey. You need to take a leap of faith. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But this is all about a new journey, a new path. Hop, skip, and a jump, go on your way. Be the fool, learn the things, go on a new adventure. Yeah, that's really all I got. It's a leap of faith.
Let's get right into astrology almanac.
Today, the moon in Gemini will conjunct with Uranus in Gemini. Quick changes may come to you, and you will need to be quick on your feet to adapt. Then on Monday, the 13th, we have a lot going on. Venus will be entering the lovely sign of Libra, which it rules. Over this time, you may find yourself and your personal relationships becoming even easier, and the overall themes of peace and joy within them. You can also enjoy some one on one time, even more with those who are closest to you. We also will see Pluto stationed direct in the sign of Aquarius, which can help us focus on major transformations and propelling forward into a new era of Pluto. You can now take control and use what you learned during the Pluto retrograde to your full advantage. We also have a last quarter moon in Cancer, which can help us to clear out our old emotions and start fresh. Now is the time for letting go of what has emotionally been holding you back. On the 14th, the moon will enter Leo, allowing for new creativity to be at your advantage. Finally, on the 16th, the moon will enter Virgo, allowing you to schedule, be productive, and get more organized.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So many things. All on
All
one
the
day.
things. I mean, the rest of this year, I don't know. It's turning out to be something. All that being said, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sister Sister. We love you so much. We will see you next time. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the bell button, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all the things. You know what to do. Do we need to tell you? Do we need to tell you? And if you're new here, you still should do those things because we're going to be best friends. So, anyway, thank you guys. Bye.